Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between, I would like to welcome you back to episode 7 of Building Bread. We're opening things a little differently than we normally do here on Building Bread. A lot of that reason is because we've accomplished quite a bit off camera, and I wanted to give you some insight into what we were doing and not just all of a sudden snap to, and look, here's how we got all these resources. During the next couple of episodes, we're going to need quite a bit of stone. So part of what we're doing is going through here and gathering that up, but it also never hurts to have diamonds, coal, and redstone, and lapis, because we'll need those too. Once we get into some of the more complicated farms, we'll be draining our redstone down very quickly, so it's always nice to have a good supply. It's also super fun to create giant pillars with all the coal that you've gathered using Silk Touch and then mine it all the way down in order to repair your tools. I do enjoy doing this. It is super fun to see it go all the way up and all the way down and to get stacks upon stacks, of which we can use to trade with our villagers. We've done quite a lot of this off camera too, and as you can see, some of our villagers are already masters. They've reached the full level and have unlocked all trades. This is a fantastic source of gear and enchants. We also have used our experience farm for a while. So another thing that we've done off camera is to make some changes to the Nether Portal Hub. So now we actually have it fully enclosed using this nether brick and the stone bricks and chiseled stone bricks and some stone and cracked bricks, and we've also hooked in the zombie spawner directly to it, so now we don't have to walk there anymore. And this goes all the way up to the village portal over here, and we've now completely closed everything off and lit it up, so we shouldn't get much. While we were doing this, we also made a new friend. Hello. And we will probably deal with that later, because we don't need to for right now, and that's not really important to today's episode. Or is it? So to start off for today, let's investigate what we do to make a brewing stand and to make some potions. So a brewing stand takes 1 blaze rod and 3 cobblestone, and once we have that, we can go and place this, and let's put it over here. So what a brewing stand does is it takes 1 blaze powder, and that will fuel the stand itself. And now what we need to do is we need to run over here and find where we put our glass and make ourselves some bottles. So right now we'll just make 6 bottles. And the bottles need to be filled from a water source of any kind. It doesn't matter what. We can even use this cauldron here, but it will slowly drain it. As you see, we'll empty it down. So generally, it's good to use something like an infinite water source to go through and fill them. And now we have water bottles, which unfortunately are not stackable in this current patch. But what we will do is we can go through and we can place all these bottles here. And you see right now it's just water. And this is one of the reasons that we wanted to go and get the Nether Wart. Because as we go through here and we put a Nether Wart in, this will go and brew our first potion. And you see this is slowly ticking down, showing you how long it will take in order to brew whatever you put into it. And let's look. What can we make? So now that this is done, we see we have an awkward potion, which is what you get when you put a Nether Wart in. We're going to throw in a magma cream, which will start to brew another potion, and this is a potion of fire resistance. Once this is brewed, we have additional choices as to what we want to make the potion beyond that, and it can be any number of things. We can create splash potions, which means that we throw something at the ground and anything in the area will get the effect. We can extend the duration of the potion or extend the effect of the potion. So here now we have crafted 3-minute potions of fire resistance. Now that's great, but that's not what I want. I want something that's going to last longer. So what I will do is I will put a piece of redstone in here, and you will see this will continue to brew another potion. And what this will do is this will change the duration of the potion from 3 minutes to 8 minutes, which is a much better effect for it.
Certain potions, things that don't give you binary effects, like we're either immune or we're not immune, such as strength, you can increase the strength to strength 2, but it then will last half as long, but you'll hit much harder. So now we have 8-minute potions of fire resistance. And you can see now that we've removed the potion for the first time, we get another advancement of local brewery. So we definitely want more Nether Wart than we'd currently harvested, because eventually we will run out. And the way that this works is that you can farm this wherever you want as long as it is grown on soul sand. So because of that, we'll just get a very quick farm going here to replenish our supply. And you'll see whenever this plants, it is fairly quick growing. I believe it takes about a half an hour for all of them to 100% go to full effect. And they have 4 stages of growth. This first one, and then it will tick up a bit, and then a third and a fourth that look almost identical. So it's better just to see. But you see this first tick happened very quickly, that we went from 1 to 2. And so we don't need to sit here and watch this, but we'll come back. But this will give us a good deal of a Nether Wart, and it's infinitely farmable, which is basically our goal for just about everything here in Minecraft. So now we've seen what it looks like when all our Nether Wart grows up. You can see there actually is one here that's not fully grown. You can barely see the difference between the two. It is pretty subtle. And there it just popped. That I couldn't have timed that better if I tried. But so you can see the difference of what was a level 3 to now a level 4. And if we want to harvest this, we basically want to make sure we're doing it with a fortune tool, because that will significantly increase our yield. I can go through here quickly, and you'll see as we're knocking it all down, I'm collecting, and unfortunately we're walking much slower because we don't have our soul speed enchanted boots on. And we have 2.5 stacks. And if I replant this, I think this was 32 blocks that we ended up putting down. So if that is the case, then we'll up with a stack and just under by the time that we finish this up. And as you can see, we do. So this is exactly how you continue to do your Nether Wart, especially if you're doing it with a fortune tool. And that holds true with most things that you can harvest. It definitely does with carrots. It definitely does with potatoes. With wheat, unfortunately, it just gets you more seeds. There's no way to increase the wheat yield. But in general, just remember, whenever you're harvesting a farm, a fortune tool is your friend. So, Hugs, you might ask, why are you staring at the brewing stand? Could it be something to do with that villager that you said that was not related to today's episode in any way, shape, or form? Why, yes, viewer, you would be right, that it actually does have something to do with today's episode. And we're going to create ourselves a potion of weakness in order to cure that zombie villager and show how we can get better trades out of villagers by doing so. So what a potion of weakness, and we specifically need the splash variety because we can't get the villagers to drink it, especially when they're in the zombie state, takes a few different things. It is one of the only potions that does not require Nether Wart. This is good for early game, but you still do need blaze powder, so you have to go to the nether at least to get it, but you only need 1 ingredient instead of 2. It also requires what is a fermented spider eye, and if we go in and look in our crafting, we see that takes a brown mushroom, a spider eye, and some sugar. Sugar is easy. We can get sugar just because we already have sugar cane. So you just put in 1 sugar cane and bam, you have sugar. Mushrooms a little harder, and let's go find that. Thankfully for us, we live right on the edge of a dark forest, so finding mushrooms is not very hard considering they're huge. So these huge mushrooms are a little different. If you look in normal forests, you can walk in and you can just see the mushrooms sitting here on the ground. And if you want, you can just pick one up and there you go, you have a mushroom. Big mushrooms like this need to be harvested, and you treat them like trees. So you can go and chop these down and you see that they're pretty much insta-mine. However, they don't break down into the component blocks unless you have Silk Touch. That is the only way you can actually get the stems or the mushroom blocks themselves. However, since we have a unbreaking axe that does not have Silk Touch, what we can do is when we break these down is this will turn into just mushrooms. See, Perfect. So we take this, and now we have our mushrooms. So if you look at the lighting level here, you can see that we're going between 15, which is max, and as we go underneath the leaves, we drop down to 13. Mushrooms can be planted on anywhere where the light level is 13 or below, and hello, creeper. I'm sorry that you want to be part of the video today, but no, we're having none of that. So as I was saying, you can plant mushrooms on anywhere that is 13 or below. 15? No. 14? No. 13? Yes. And you can bone meal these, but they do require a certain amount of space to grow. So let's see what we can do with knocking these leaves out of the way, and see if we can at least get a small mushroom. And you're hearing mob noises because the light levels never get high enough to burn them. They do require full sunlight in order to burn. If they're in shade, they will be able to maintain. So, knocking down. And there we go. We have a mushroom that just grew. It was stayed under the level here, and we can harvest it. So what we can do is we can use our fortune tool to harvest the mushrooms, and you see we're getting quite a few. Most of the time, you won't get any mushrooms when you're going through a block, but the levels of fortune increase the percentage by 1 by every rank of fortune that you have. And since we have fortune 3, which is the maximum, that increases our possibility of getting mushrooms as we break these blocks. They're not instant because it's not quite as fast as the axe would be, the axe being the proper tool for this. But we do get some interesting stuff, and we'll switch to Silk Touch to show how we can collect the blocks instead and make it look a little different. So we get these, we get the mushroom stem, and we get the mushroom block, as well as we collected 17 mushrooms. So that's more than enough for what we need, so let's head back to the house. This is a zombie villager, specifically a zombie villager farmer, and is wearing armor and is holding a piece of rotten flesh. And this is one of the reasons that they didn't despawn. Any mob that either picks up armor or holds an item will stay spawned, and it's very similar to a name tag where they don't count towards the mob cap. So he'll stay here indefinitely, as long as we keep it safe and make sure that they don't run anywhere and don't get killed. So what do we want this villager for? Now what we want to do is we want to basically cure it of being a zombie. And we can do this through a 2-step process. First, we have to take our potion of weakness and get it to acquire the weakness effect, shall we say. And we do that aggressively. So now it has the effect, as you can tell by the little swirly things coming off of it. And we're going to feed it a golden apple. And at that point in time, it starts to shake and makes all kinds of noise, and the little effect coming out of it turns to red. And what is happening right now is this villager is being cured. It is being removed from being a zombie, and it will go back to being a regular villager. This can take anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes, depending on your luck and configuration on the server, and if you do all the things required in order to maximize it. For example, if I were to surround this poor soul with iron bars, they would cure faster. But we will sit and wait, and at the time that this finally goes through and gets cured, we will get both an advancement, and we will get a villager who thinks the world of us because we saved it from being a zombie. You remember in an earlier episode I said that the reputation from being a villager can go from -30 to +30. Curing the villager is one of the biggest things you can do, and it's repeatable. If you get to the point of where the villager is not where you want it to be trade-wise, you can reinfect it and then cure it again, and the prices will continue to drop all the way down to 1 emerald, pretty much for anything. And we'll see this in another episode when we actually construct a real villager trading hall, but that's another episode. And there we go, Zombie Doctor. We have cured this villager and retains its profession because we had already locked it. But you see the trades have come down. We have increased our reputation where before what took 20 wheat now takes 14. Before what took 6 pumpkins
now only takes 1. So this is spectacular, and remember that we could do this again. We could drive these trades all the way down to only requiring 1 wheat, but it's difficult to do in this format, even though on the mode that we're playing of hard, zombies that attack villagers have a 100% success conversion rate. If you're playing on medium, it's only 50%, and on easy, I don't believe it happens at all. So we went off and did some trades and got ourselves some potatoes. So now we're going to trade with this farmer. And you can see that we go through and we get much more value out of the amount of trades that we do than we previously did because the amount has come down. Now, what we can do with this as well is it's now very good to have a pumpkin farm because we can max out these traits pretty quickly. So to keep this villager nice and safe, we're going to drop a trapdoor on so that no one can get to it. And let's go back and talk about how we make a very basic pumpkin farm. So now we're going to introduce 2 new redstone components that we haven't used before in the world. These are observers, and we're going to try that again. Let's actually go and get some cobblestone first. 3, 2, 1. So now we're going to introduce some redstone components that we haven't seen in the world before. And these are observers. And observers also require redstone, so you're an idiot. So now we're going to use some redstone components that we haven't run into yet in the world, and these are called observers. Observers take cobblestone, nether quartz, and redstone in order to craft, and we will need about 10 of them, so let's go ahead and do that. In addition, what we're going to need are pistons. And pistons require wood, cobble, iron, and redstone. So most of these things that we need are very easily acquired in the early game. You can just zip through another portal for the quartz and you can make yourself observers and pistons. And we're going to need a lot more than that, so we're going to have to acquire some more resources. Thankfully, we have a ton of cobblestone in the chest right here, so we can just go and ninja that, and all as well. When you place an observer, by default, the detection area will be placed away from you, and the activation area will be facing you. They have this little face, which tells you whatever it is that they're watching, and any time that you plant something that is in front of it, or the block updates, it will tick, and it will generate a redstone signal. You see that we had a flash there in the arrow, and as I go ahead and knock this wooden block off, you'll see this little button on the back also flash. That means that it's sending out a redstone signal, and we can see this by dropping down some redstone dust as a wire, and this will send energy out to that. I'm using a data pack which shows what the signal strength is. That's why you'll see these zeros, and that might not match your experience, but I think it's very handy. So as we go ahead and place a block there, you'll see it pulse very quickly, and the numbers here will also change. As I go, let me go right here, and keep an eye on that number. It will briefly pulse to 15. And so that tells us that the observer detected something that happened in front of it in the face of what's watching. So the second block that we have is a piston. And pistons will, when they receive a redstone signal, will extend. And we can see that by attaching the signal from the observer to the piston. As I drop a block in front of here, it does nothing. Why is that? Because the piston itself has to be charged directly. So the way that we can do that is by putting a block directly behind it and moving the redstone line on top. Now when we go ahead and do this, it fires because the block behind it has been charged, and therefore when it receives an update and the observer sends out a signal, the block very quickly pulses. Now, what can we use this for? Now, if you noticed earlier, pumpkins generate as a full block. So we can take advantage of that as the pumpkins grow, that the observer will detect that they have grown, and the piston will knock the pumpkin off the vine. So let's build a very quick example of that. So here I've just duplicated what we created before and just happened to put it a little bit further over. So what we can do is we can take this pumpkin seed and we can plant it. And you see when we planted that, that is an update that the observer detected, so it fired the piston. However, this is not fully grown yet, so let's bone meal it. And each time that we bone meal this, if we can find it to the box, it registers as an update. And each time it does that, the piston fires. Now here we have two possibilities. The pumpkin can either grow on this block or on this block. And we can account for that and we can fix it by putting a second piston right here. And this can be powered by the same observer. All we have to do is put another block back here like we did before and drop another piece of dust on it. And now anytime that this observer fires, it will fire both pistons. Now, pumpkins can take a large amount of time to grow, so we can sit here and wait, but through the magic of editing, we can fast forward to when it actually happens, and what will happen is you will see the pumpkin blip into existence. The observer will detect that the pumpkin stem has grown because the stem will change its state because it bends over due to the weight of the pumpkin, and then the piston will fire, breaking the pumpkin, and the state will go back to the way that it is now. So through the magic of editing, let's fast forward to when that happens. And there we go. We have our first pumpkin that appeared when the pistons fired. And this one's not a fantastic example because it landed on the very edge. And sometimes that happens. With this style of farm, it can be a little bit lossy. But at this point, we're not really interested in putting the most efficient farm together, just getting something that we can enjoy and get pumpkins out of. So here we are behind our house, which is the perfect spot to create a small pumpkin farm. And as usual, we will do this by a time lapse. So now we've finished our build of the pumpkin farm, and I'll come back and detail this a little bit later, but I'm happy with it for right now. And you might have noticed in the time lapse we were originally trying to decorate the front of the dirt there, but that didn't go so well because the pumpkins kept getting caught on the lip, very similar to what they did when we were doing the demonstration. So I took all those down, and it'll just have to be good enough for this version of the farm. Later on in the series, we'll definitely build a better version that will be completely lossless, as well as be much more highly productive than what we've got now, but this is not bad. We can run down here. I left this running for a couple of hours and come and open this up, and we've got a couple of stacks of pumpkins, and that's great. So I wanted to thank you once again for choosing to spend your time with me here. Hello, Extreme Close-Up. For choosing to spend your time here with me on Building Bread. And once again, as a reminder, I donate all the profits that I make off of this to local food banks. So if you've learned something today, or got a laugh, or otherwise enjoyed yourself, I would greatly appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, or tell a friend. So I've been OverHugs, and I hope you have the most wonderful of days. I'll see you soon.